Hello again, Pats, pals, and Foxborough friends, and we welcome you to the latest and always greatest edition of Six Rings and Football Things, a podcast presentation of WEEI, WEEI.com, and Odyssey Sports. I'm your old pal, Nick Fitzy Stevens, joined today by my guys, my Patriots talk partner extraordinaire, the one and only Andy Jumbo Hart, and joining us, special guest for today's training camp 2022 preview, two-time Super Bowl champion, WEEI colleague, bon vivant, gentle friend extraordinaire, the one and only Fauria. Christian Fauria is in the house. What's up, guys?
Hello, everybody. What's up, Andy?
Hi, Fauria. Glad you got your microphone working.
If anyone who is listening to this now, or anyone who happens to be watching because we're recording live to the old Fitzy GFY socials, if anyone listening to this has any idea the Herculean task it was just getting Christian Fauria to friggin' unmute his microphone so we could record this little vignette, this cameo for training camp, my God.
You know what? A good craftsman never blames his tools, and I feel like that's what you're doing to me right now. Like
yes.
It's the user error. It's you. You're the guy. You're the guy from Tron that controls everything.
Okay, Christian, to put it in training camp terms right now, you have failed the conditioning test, and I'm having you run 10 extra gassers and hills after practice today.
Can we just first of all, I was just going back and forth with a buddy of mine about camp, about camp, like NFL camp. First of all, it's very misleading. There's nothing camp-esque about like NFL camp. Like they go, hey, summer camp, it's gonna be fun. We're having s'mores and swimming in the lake and hanging out, playing baseball, go canoeing.
That's where my 9-year-old is right now. My oldest son Thomas is currently at a day camp where he literally plays like mini golf, basketball, goes canoeing, does crafts, s'mores, burgers. Like it's a 9 or 10. It's my dream actually, and I think training camp, as you describe it and lived it for so many years, is literally the exact opposite.
Well, it isn't as much as it used to be. Not to be the get off my lawn guy, but it is funny how sometimes a lot of the vets don't even have to stay in the hotel. Forget about a dorm room in some random college in the middle of nowhere. It's just so easy now, and there's no padded practices. I don't know, Andy, maybe you can help me. I think there's 13 total padded practices for the entire year, not camp. The entire year. So if you could literally use up all your padded practices in camp and never be in pads ever again due to the collective bargaining agreement that the players so graciously afforded all those players. But it's easy now. It's real easy. You can recover from injury. You can stay healthy the entire time. You can always stay ahead of the soreness that comes with camp, because you're just not banging, you don't have 2 days, you're not dehydrated, you're not losing weight, you're sleeping at home in most cases. I mean, maybe it is more like camp now.
Yeah, now it's become like camp, yeah.
It's funny because Bill was asked in his pre-training camp Zoom today about, apparently this is the 20th anniversary, I guess, of the last Bryant training camp that they had, a traditional stay in a dorm, you're there all the time kind of atmosphere, eat in the cafeteria. Do you think anything is lost with what you're talking about, that there's no more double sessions? There's no more of that camp bonding because we're all in this hell together in a sweaty, hot dorm room on some small college. Is there any negative, or is this just the evolution and that was stupid? Not sure why we ever did it that way anyway.
No, and I was a part of that. My first year here was the last year at Bryant, so I got to experience that before they moved everyone to the Residence Inn.
Holy smokes, Fauria, your first year, you catch Brady's first touchdown pass at the new stadium. You christen the new stadium. You're part of the last year at camp. You win Super Bowls in 2 of your 4 years of the team. Holy shit, what a run.
Well, yeah, but the Bryant experience was less memorable than any of those other things. But I feel like I didn't become closer. Being away at camp did not force me to be closer with my teammates as opposed to actually just being closer to our practice facility. I don't think they say that's why they do it, but the reality is a lot of teams did this because they didn't have the ability to hold camp with so many players and so many fans. So they went to another college. All the teams went to another college. They used their stadiums for prep games. They They had like lots of dorm rooms, lots of space, and just lots of access to different things. And that's why you went away. That's the reality of it. The bonding thing is so overrated. I never became closer to somebody on the team because I was stuck in camp with them. Like never. Like it's like I never was like, had a closer bond based on a shared like miserable experience that actually paid dividends in week 10. It doesn't it's all fake.
So you and Ted Washington or you and Larry Izzo never became bros because you guys were dehydrated next to each other after like your 7th straight 2-a-day, wondering if the hell on earth you were going through would ever end?
No, I never did. Like those bonds happened like in the I didn't. That most of those bonds I always thought like happened during the season, just on the bus, road trips, like that type of thing. Like not necessarily hey, like being at Bryan College. And because once you get out of meetings, everyone just goes to their room. Like, your meetings used to end like at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Curfew was at 11. And then you had to wake up like at 6:30 a.m., to get to breakfast and then get to rehab and then get dressed. And then practice would start at like 8:39. So everyone just wanted to hurry up and get back to their rooms and just watch TV or whatever, illegal Xbox machine they had to watch porn. Like that's what everybody did. Everybody went to the room and closed their doors.
Past players watching scrambled porn, just like the rest of us on the road.
Saw a nipple. That was a nipple.
I think I can see it if I close one eye. It's like,
if I just
get closer.
Wait, but you guys are really out there, like you said, like now there's like 11, like I think it was Kevin O'Connell, Andy, the new Vikings coach, who said like we're going to only have like 11 full contact practices or whatever. And
it's way different. That's the one thing I would question, because I think you're right, Christian. Some of that is fake. Some of it was forced, the whole bonding and group.
Band of brothers, yeah.
Yeah, but I do question. Like, I know Brandon Staley, when he went to the Chargers, like they were super no contact, veterans don't even play in preseason games. Our whole plan is to just like ease guys into it. And
it's like online shopping now, a contactless experience.
Right, except it's a contact sport. And I do wonder to some degree if the lack of hitting in pads plays a role just in guys being ready. Like if you're a college player and you come in and you only get a couple chances to actually hit in a couple preseason games, and maybe it's only a couple series, I don't know if you're really prepared for the speed and the physicality of regular season action. I think there's something lost there, Chris.
I would agree with you, because as an older guy, you don't need as much. Like your technique you just need like, some fine tuning. But as a rookie, there's so many changes. I was just thinking about like, first of all, it's the speed. It's such a dramatic difference from college to pros. It's just remarkable. Then all these guys, let's just say like you're an offensive lineman, you're a tight end, you're a linebacker, you're a defensive back covering a wide receiver. Like the vets, if they're good, are so like technique savvy. They're so aware of the drills. They'll cheat the drills. They kind of know what the plays are. So and then they're just quicker than you, because they're just they know not to fall asleep. They know to be ready. So 90% of the time you're losing before the ball's even snapped, and then you can't even work on your technique. So the one thing that I used to hate / love was that 2-a-day practices for 2 weeks. You would stretch, you do whatever, and it would be one-on-one versus the linebackers. Linemen would do one-on-one versus the defensive tackles. Like it was, each side hated it because I knew what your moves were, you knew where mine were, and then but you were forced to attack each other and really just go after it. That helped me so much, especially like when you played against really good players. Like when I came to New England, it was Vrabel, it was like Roman Pfeiffer. There was a lot of good edge players that were really good technique guys. So I remember Dan Graham struggling. Like he just could not figure it out. He was getting just whooped. But then the next year, he was whooping them. Like he was just a great blocker in college. But the NFL, they know how to leverage you. They know how to take away your strength. And nothing that he was good at in college translated the first year. So long-winded answer, Andy. Like I agree with you. Like for the younger players, even the second-year players, you need multiple reps. You need to overdo it, and then it sticks.
I know we only got you for another couple minutes, and I could just spend another half an hour talking about how the NFL has gotten soft and how probably the lack of contact during training camp has made the first month of the season kind of sloppy, which is like an extended training camp. And while you try to make up for it with some of these coordinated or group practices, like who is it this year? It's Pats and Raiders, and they're Raiders, and they have one or two other teams they're doing coordinated practices with, right?
Yeah.
Panthers, Eagles.
Yeah. Usually it's the Eagles, maybe Panthers too. Like that helps make up for it. But just because I know we only get you for another couple minutes.
Well, I'll give you an extra 5 because I had so much trouble.
You sure? Okay, good.
Yeah. So go ahead.
All right. So let's harken back to the good old days of story time on Ineligible Speakers, or when we do it on NBC Sports Boston. Give us, I don't know, one of Fauria's favorite training camp memories, whether it was with the Seahawks or somewhere else or with the Patriots, like a good old Grizzly Belichick training camp nugget.
But see, here's the thing. Like, I don't really like my stories are about like hating it and suffering and like despising it. Like, there's nothing.
Good.
I don't really like. The best day when we left. Like when we left, like it was like guys could not pack their cars quick enough. Like it was amazing. Like the thing, like all the stories are usually like nasty or gross. So guys they became so just lazy and nobody wanted to get out of bed that they used to, instead of getting up and going to the bathroom, which was down the hall. Okay, now you're a millionaire. You're used to going into your expensive bathroom and just going. They would pee in their Gatorade bottles. And then some guys wouldn't throw them away. Some guys would dump them in the trash. Some guys would leave them in their room, like 3 or 4 bottles. This is not.
Oh, what are we doing?
Any of this up?
What are we doing?
It was just like some of the things that guys did out of just sheer just laziness.
Fatigue, right?
Like, okay, if I can conserve as much energy as possible, I'm not going to get up. I'm just going to lean over and pee in a Gatorade bottle. Like it's stuff like back in the day, like if you lived in one of these dorms in the college, not at Bryan College, you were allowed to bring golf carts. And guys they would turn their golf carts into NASCARs. They would all have numbers on them and stuff like that. They'd paint the sides of them. And then there was always one guy that knew how to take the governor off. So these were not your golf course like golf carts. Like these were supercharged, like terrible brakes, and that went way too fast. And guys were always falling out of them. There was always too many guys on the golf cart. Guys would get motorized scooters. The ingenuity that went into getting through camp, I thought was always kind of interesting. Just whatever you could do to take yourself away from the fact that you were in some small town with crappy air conditioning, a terrible bed, and food that got boring after the first day.
It sounds like a combination of Jackass and National Lampoon's Animal House. Yeah. I love it.
Those things were funny. But again, once the season starts, you're just happy you're not there anymore. You're literally so happy that you never have to go back there for another year. It's just everybody's in a good mood.
Did you have a roommate in 2002 at Bryant?
See, I know you might say. No roommate in 2002. No roommate in 2002. Everybody had their own room. I do remember, this was obviously the year after they won the Super Bowl, and I remember Adam Vinatieri was on my floor, and he was on the ground floor. I remember, security had to get involved because, all these, fans were trying to get into his room. You're, knocking on it in the middle of the night. I don't know how they knew where he was, but I remember, he had the worst situation, Super Bowl hero, all over the place. And next thing you know, he's on the ground floor at some dorm at Bryant. Because I remember sitting there going, dude, do you sleep? But it's not like he had to sleep anyways. He wasn't doing anything. But I always thought that was interesting.
Knowing Adam Vinatieri, it had to be men and women, Andy.
Men and women, right?
Oh,
yes.
Definitely.
Definitely. All right, before you go, let's just get a couple quick thoughts on Pat's Camp 2022. Christian Fauria, your biggest concern and/or what do you believe is the biggest storyline as Camp 2022 for your Patriots begins?
I think it's the same that I think everybody has, and it's like the offense. Forget about who's calling the plays. Who's in charge of the offensive room? Like who is and it can't be the head coach. Where does the buck stop? Like when I don't know what's going on, if I have an ultimate question, like who is the last line of defense? Like who gives the final answer? Like who am I going to? That's what I need to know. I need to know if I have a serious question, I can't go to my position coach. I need to go to who? How do you want this run? What are we trying to achieve? That to me, I've just never seen anything like it. And as an older player, I need some direction. You know, I need to know what's going on. And going from Josh McDaniels, one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL for a long period of time, even if you had a really good established offensive coordinator, I think it's a step down. But going to the guys that you have in that room is, to me, is a liability. I just believe it is. I'm not going to think anything differently. I'm sure. I'm sure they're great coaches at certain aspects, and developing players. Who the hell knows? But running an offense, in my opinion, is a little bit more challenging, and it comes with a little bit more stress and a little bit more tougher circumstances. And you're dealing with a young quarterback who seems like he should be in charge. Like ultimately, he should be the last line of defense. But it's the offense for me, and who's calling the plays.
So let's stick to talent and on-field and give me both ends of the spectrum. If the Patriots overachieve and are better than most people think, what will the on-field reason be? And if they underachieve and are worse than some people think, what will the on-field reason be?
Well, I think if they overachieve, I think the defense actually is better than people give them credit for. I think that's it'll go all over the place, but I think the defense to me is going to be a big issue as far as their ability just to slow down some of the high-flying teams in the AFC East. Forget about the rest of the league. So if they overachieve and they make the playoffs, it's because the defense played, better than we expected. They got bigger stops than we expected. Young players who you didn't know their name beforehand ended up being starters and were major contributors. And if they fail, if they don't live up to it, I still think it's the defense's fault. I think you're going to be, for the most part, okay on offense, but and they're getting all the attention. I still think they'll be okay because I think they have better weapons than people are giving them credit for. I think ultimately Mac Jones will have the ability to overcome his coaching, which I think is the key to playing in the NFL, like overcome your coaching. But I think defensively defense is not getting enough attention based on which I think their issues are going to be ultimately. I just don't know. I don't see a guy on that team, on that defense that I say, oh crap, I better study a little extra. I got to have the Kyler Murray 4-hour rule. I better study a little extra on my own.
Oh my God. I as if I didn't already hate that contract enough. Now that they had to embed a 4-hour study rule to make him do his homework to earn his friggin' $46.1 million a year. God, you want to talk about going soft, Christian? Jesus, mercy, and Joseph on Rye.
Amazing.
Oh my God. It makes me so mad. All right, last one.
Good question, Andy. I like that question. I'm going to steal it today.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be on the air later today. So we'll look forward to highlights of that on WEEI. Last one, a name that pops for the right reasons and a name that pops for the wrong reasons this camp.
Ooh, okay. So a name that pops for the wrong, Malcolm Butler. I think I'm not buying it, Fitzy. Like there's a lot of goodwill and love and memories with him, but man, he didn't play great before he retired. What makes you think he's going to play great coming back after a year off? I think that's ultimately going to be a sad story. It's like the Isaiah Thomas of the NFL. I actually think, what was for the
and who pops for the right reasons? Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go Jonnu Smith. I'm going to take Andy Hart's guy. Andy, he's a little premature. Last year, he was a little premature. And that was his guy. I'm glad I waited. I'm buying low on Jonnu Smith, and I think it'll pay off.
It's a penny stock. That's right. Yep.
Penny stock. Yeah.
Nice.
He had to sell it. He has to flash sale it.
All right, you can follow him on the tweet machine at Christian Fauria, 2 to 6, Monday through Friday, except when he's on vacation. Then either Andy or I have to fill in for him on the show. The one, the only, our buddy, Christian Fauria. Thanks for a little time for our Six Rings podcast camp preview, my guy. I know you got to attend to your family obligations right now, and then we'll hear you later on the radio today. And you get to talk socks and everything else. We'll keep the football end of the bargain. I know, exactly, right? You're welcome
All right,
here
boys,
anytime.
thanks.
Anytime, buddy. All right.
I can't believe you waited. It took this long for me to get an invite. It's really remarkable.
I wanted to show some respect for your appreciation of summer, tequila, and family time.
All right,
and then you said, I can give you 12 minutes between 10:45 and 11.
Well, listen, I am a pretty big deal today. Like, I have a lot going on today.
Big deal or no big deal? Christian Fauria joining Six Rings Pod. All right, thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. See ya. Christian Fauria joining the Six Rings Pod with a little bit of his perspective, some stories, a little bit in the Wayback Machine. Bryant College, you don't hear that, or is it Bryant University or Bryant College?
It's Bryant University now. It was Bryant College then, and it's funny because I was actually there. So I was in the PR department at the time back then. Slept in the dorms just like Christian. I remember the whole hellhole experience that it was. It was hot. It was gross. Blah, long days, short nights, the whole thing. But the campus, as much as they've blown up, I was there for a lacrosse tournament last month, I guess, and basically the Patriots practice field is still there. Like, we were playing lacrosse games on that aspect of it. Now there's a new like indoor facility next to it, and there's some new probably science buildings or whatever, but the general setup of the campus, dorm, cafeteria, gym where they used to have their makeshift weight room, and then out to the practice fields, their sort of line of travel from 20 years ago is still kind of in place.
That was back during your first couple of years when you were working the beat at Patriots.com, right? Grabbing the papers from Mr. Belichick.
It was, I was in the PR department first when we were back there, and I was sitting answering phones, and I'll give you a little Andy Hart insight. My first training camp there in 2001, they were already in the midst of sort of a weird Terry Glenn world, and I was the first person he saw when he showed up for training camp. He came in and he walked into the room. He goes, "Hey, you know where I can get my key?" And I was like, "Nope, PR intern, go find somebody else." No,
and someone was like, "Hey, did you see Terry Glenn?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, she went that way." And you're like, "There's one for you, Parcells."
Well, that was back before head down.
No, I know.
Andy Hart was don't talk to anybody. Pioli's yelling at me. Just keep my head down. Don't say shut up. Like, yeah, totally different Andy Hart back then.
Thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Six Rings Pod. We enjoyed the Christian Fauria cameo to kick off our Camp 2022 preview. You can follow us on the socials at Six Rings Pod. And of course, sixringspod@gmail.com if you'd like to submit questions for future podcasts. Like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts twice a week right now. And we will soon be cranking it up to at least 3 times a week as we get into the pretend football season. And of course, once things kick off, September 11th, 2022, when the Patriots take their talents to Miami Gardens to tackle the Miami Dolphins in this year's season opener. All right, Andy, got a couple more segments here. This next one, we'll actually just sort of like put a couple of our storylines and camp observations early on. Of course, Belichick met with the media today. I think you were on that Zuma. And then we'll do some news, notes, nuggets, and a little Danny Amendola tribute to wrap things up. Bill Belichick lights the socials abuzz this morning when he relays in response to the question of if he's been impressed by or taken note of Mac Jones's work this offseason. What was the phrase? I think he said dramatically improved or dramatically improving. And then, of course, every Pats fan like, oh, quick, insert a GIF of somebody, getting pumped up. LFG, let's go. Everyone's fired up. Is there anything to make of that? Or is he just, that's what he's supposed to say? It's just early Bella speak.
Well, I mean, A, that's what he's supposed to say. But B, I think he, in his usual fashion, would say that about every player. You go back to a year ago, he didn't even know where the practice field was. Didn't know how to strap his pads on. He didn't know where the lunchroom was, kind of thing. And you grow through that experience. And we've all talked about it. You know, I know Kyrie and I said it during the spring, just seeing him out there. Mac looks more comfortable. Mac looks like the energy of a leader has only grown, because there was energy last year. Guys like Judon and Bourne were talking about his swag right out the gates last year, but that's only grown and been sort of emboldened by the experiences and really just the ascension. A year ago, he brought swag to a competition with Cam Newton. Back then, most people, not named Andy Hart, still thought that Cam Newton was the starter, even though I said on June 15th that Mac Jones would be the starter. I was right. Everybody else was wrong, just the way the world works. Kind of like in January when I predicted that Matt Patricia would be the offensive coordinator. I was right. Everybody else was wrong.
Okay, that and whatever else helps you sleep at night. Sure, okay.
That, Miller Lights.
Yeah, that and Miller Lights. Okay. So Belichick remarks that he's impressed with the work Mac Jones has put in. We've seen all of the off-schedule, off-season, impromptu, self-directed practice sessions with Aguilar, J.J. Taylor, Devontae Parker in Tampa, California, locally. There's no doubt he's put in the work. And I think Christian touched on it a little bit. I think it's worth touching on a little bit more on this end. Belichick even said, I think I saw the tweet from Mark Daniels earlier this morning, if Mac's going to have a say in the playbook or if he'll be trusted more with play calling. And he said yes, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, oh, yeah, Mac is going to have significant input. Like, to me, when I hear that, as we try to like divine, like, is it all Patricia? Is it all Judge? Or is Patricia coordinating the run game? Judge coordinating the pass game? And Mac's, throwing in his input here, there, and everywhere. I think Mac Jones is going to have a bigger hand in calling plays and helping them figure out what this Patriots playbook 3.0, 4.0, whatever you want to call it, is going to look like. Because he's going to run what he's comfortable with. They're going to take the best of what he's done before, take his intelligence and put it to use as they evolve this scheme. Otherwise, then you're not utilizing his best attribute, which is his ability to process information at a high rate, because he sure as hell doesn't have the biggest body or the most laser rocket of arms.
Well, Bill has already transitioned his quote about Tom Brady to Mac Jones. The idea that every decision will be made in the best interest of the quarterback. It was Tom Brady. It was Cam Newton for a short period of time. And now it is Mac Jones for an extended period. One of the things that's intrigued me is how quickly Belichick has talked about Mac being the quarterback, Mac taking up a leadership role, Mac sort of giving him the throne, so to speak. The one thing that would concern me, and you're not alone in your thinking, that Mac's going to have a bigger say in the offense. Mac is going to be calling plays or really chipping in that area.
But he and Joe Judge are teaching each other the offense or whatever the hell he said. Yeah.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Okay.
Christian just made a comment, overcome your coaching. And that may be a need for Mac Jones. It is far from ideal. I don't want anybody overcoming their coaching, whether it's Tom Brady, who has a little poop show last year where, if you believe all the reports, he and Leftwich are on the same page, and then Bruce Arians comes in with his red marker and crosses everything out on that. That's not ideal, and he's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's more capable than anyone of overcoming any inconsistencies or communication issues, right? But that's not ideal. You would never want that for anybody. So this idea that Mac, as you said, we're teaching each other was I think his quote in the spring, he and Joe Judge. Well, that's not ideal. I'd rather he just be focused on learning, focused on teaching himself, focused on his drills, focused on self-evaluation of what he did a year earlier. So he can make the most of this situation, and maybe Joe Judge and Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia can make the most of it. But anybody that tells you it's a positive, I'm looking at you, RG3, telling me this is actually a positive for the Patriots. I think that is pure spin, PR, propaganda, idiocy. There's a reason why teams spend so much time creating systems, honing systems, altering playbooks, tweaking what they do, because this is a supposedly science, right? There's a scientific nature to it. And now,
and also a feel for it too. It's like being a starting pitcher, being a quarterback, being a starting pitcher. It's the same thing. You got to get a feel for calling plays. You got to get into the rhythm of the game. You have to understand tendencies, weaknesses, and set up plays to work down the line, not just the next play call.
Now I'm to be believing thanks to RG3, that it's better if you don't have any experience. You're unpredictable. You're like Maverick. You're dangerous because you're unpredictable.
Right. Who knows what they're going to call next? Even them, they don't know.
You know what happens when you're dangerous? People die around you, right? People peter out and go to funerals, and bad stuff happens. So
careers are ended, and you become irrelevant. And now you start getting Spiro Dito and the Z Team broadcasters on CBS in the middle of the season.
Exactly. So I'm not waving the white flag for the offense. I actually agree with Christian. It's funny because the way Christian talked about it, his biggest question was the coaching on offense. But clearly his biggest question for the team is the overall defense and how they play and how they compete. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. Like, the coaching is the flashy subject on offense. The meat and potatoes of how this team is going to play will be decided by who plays cornerback, how well they play cornerback, who plays linebacker, how well they play linebacker, and whether or not they can stop guys like Josh Allen and Carr and Rodgers and all of these guys that are looking to put up big plays and big numbers on them. So, the sexy story's over here, but the meat and potatoes, rubber meeting the road, is over on defense.
Yeah, that's why I always make mention of this Miami opener, because I think there will be no greater test for whatever the hell. I think the offense is going to be better than people expect. Sure, there'll be bumps in the road. Yes, there'll be growing pains. Yes, they will crap the bed. Turnovers might be had along the way to trying to figure out how this Bella Shan or Shanachek offense with the new zone run schemes and RPOs and more play action will work. Ultimately in time, because you've heard me say here time and again and on the radio, I like the wide receiver core more than most. I think the running back room will eventually emerge as top 10 in most people's minds by the end of the year. Matt Light told us the offensive line is going to be nastier. And I'm a big believer in Mac Jones' season. All of that. And Andrew Callahan was on the radio with us from the Boston Herald last week saying, buy the hype, invest now. Ramondre Stevenson season is here. That's all great. But to me, the storyline, that's the sexy stuff. That gets you the NFL Network highlights. That gets airtime on Six Rings. That's what we talk about over and over again on the radio, and it gets clicks at WEI.com. What we need to be talking about, what the storylines of this camp need to be, are who the F is getting the cornerback job? What the F is the scheme on this defense? Can they make Josh Allen punt? And are there any linebackers worth holding on to for next season? And will Josh Uche finally friggin' figure out how to generate a pass rush consistently and stay on the field? And where's Ronnie Perkins? These are the storylines Pats fans need to be worried about, Andy. The defense gives me meat sweats. The offense gives me hope.
And I think it should. Now, where you get in trouble is the opposition, right? Because that plays a role in both of these questions. The defense has to stop some really good offenses, some really talented quarterbacks, some really impactful receivers. And the offense, if the defense can't do that, has to keep up. So there could be that, the old Peyton Manning pressure of he knows if he punts, he loses back in the heyday. And he had to treat it that way. And I think Brady went through that off and on over the years, where the defense is a work in progress. I can't punt. We need to match what the other team is doing. I think there's going to be some of that pressure on Mac. Good may not be good enough. Mac Jones year 2 may be good. Devontae Parker and the receivers may be good. That maybe isn't good enough. Like, you score 21 and you're like, okay, we had a decent week. Excuse me, I'm being told we gave up 35. Oh, we lost by 14, right?
Yeah, we scored 27 in Miami. So we did better than we did last year in that season-ending crap show that was actually back in January. They went down there and they put up 27 on a good Miami defense in the heat of September. Oh, shit, they gave up 38. They had no answer for Tyreek Hill, Waddle, or Gesicki. That sucks. That it's a possibility. I think they're going to have to go into shootout mode. Now, whether you're a believer in that's going to, iron's going to sharpen iron. Mac is going to be better for the cause for having to always keep up with these other teams, or they're getting Mac out of the rhythm of his maturation and proper growth. It's one thing if you're super smart and they start giving you 4th and 5th grade books to learn from in 1st or 2nd grade. It's another thing if you just at least get to stay on track and grow normally so that you don't miss out on anything else that's important to being a kindergartner or a 1st grader or a 2nd grader. And that's just the one cause I have, the one concern I have offensively is, like Curran pointed out, like Scheim has previously pointed out, the defense might cause the offense to go through growing pains that they shouldn't have to go through.
Can I also counter something you just said with, well, first of all, what is the
We embrace debate here on Six Rings.
What is the opposite of iron sharpens iron? Because that's my concern for the Patriots in training camp. Jello weakens Jello.
I was going to say, well, iron sharpening iron can also cause sparks and fire, which can be bad too.
My point is, I don't know how good they are on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's still questions about the receivers, the targets, the young quarterback. I also don't know, or actually probably do know, but people will get angry if I tell them what they are on defense. So they could battle it out. They could slug it out, and we could be alternating next week, Fitzy. Oh, Monday, the defense kicked ass. Tuesday, wow, bounce back day for the offense. Maybe both the offense and defense aren't very good, and they're just picking on each other. And when they actually get on a field with really good competition, they could get exposed, because whatever the opposite of iron sharpening iron is, they may have that.
All right, I want you to, damn you, the power of Christ compels you. Out of Andy Hart's spirit of Chris Scheim. Get out of him. Out. Out, I say. I exorcise his demons from your Patriots analyzing and football loving soul. Now, I know look, I'm not saying this offense is going to be the 2007 Patriots, the 2013 Broncos, the 2019 Chiefs. Like, we can all RELAF and X about that. I just think they're going to be efficient, a little unpredictable, both at times good and bad. But ultimately, they're going to be able to keep up or keep uppish with some of these better teams. It's just like, oh, good, we scored 30 against Buffalo. F word, we gave up 50. I mean, that sucks. But again, that's why I'm going to be I'm excited about the offense. I can't wait to see them there. I know you're going to be down there at camp this week. Looking forward to all the quick little videos Stacey James and the company allow for, all of the insight and analysis you can provide. But my eye, the good one, you know what? Both of them will be clearly trained on how this defense is evolving and what the hell's going on the stop people from scoring side of the ball.
Yeah, and it'll be a perception reality thing. I think there'll be some bias in the coverage coming out this week. Today was a perfect example of bias in Bill Belichick, in the reaction to Bill Belichick's quotes. You referenced it earlier. He said Mac Jones has made a dramatic improvement. Everybody's like, oh my God, you hear Bill, dramatic improvement, championship, MVP.
Fire up the duck boats.
Bill also said that Joe Judge and Matt Patricia are great coaches who can do every aspect of the job and have every skill to run the gamut. And there's plenty of people in Patriot Nation that think one or both of those guys are boobs and they hate that they're running the offense. They hate that they're involved with the coaching. Why do they ignore Bill's comments in one area, but blow up his comments in the other? So it's all interpretation. As far as the week goes, I just did want to paint a picture for our listeners, since this is the training camp preview podcast.
Yes.
So we will be on the practice field Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, before a day off on Sunday, which is contractually obligated by the CBA. But those will be non-contact, non-pads, helmets, and T-shirt sessions. So if you're heading down to Gillette, it is open to the public. I would just sort of caution you, you're not going to see goal line 11 on 11, banging of heads, James Devlin style. You're going to see them easing, as Fauria alluded to, the new age training camp, easing into training camp with 4 days of what is essentially a continuation of the OTAs and mini camps of the spring. And then next Monday is my day. Monday is when the pads come on. We start seeing some banging. We start seeing some hitting. We start seeing some offensive line one-on-ones with the D-line, and like, oh, Judon blew by Trent Brown. And then on the next series, Christian Barmore kicked Cole Strange's. Some of that.
Right.
There'll be some delayed gratification until next week if you're looking for that kind of stuff.
And that's what everyone wants to see as well, because beforehand it's going to be like, whoa, Tyquan Thornton is so fat. Like, yeah, well, Mac Jones stepped back with no real pass rush, and he was able to just blow by people and show everyone his Willie Golf-like Olympic track speed. But let's see what happens when he gets chipped off the line, or safety Jabril Peppers comes in. Well, actually, he can't be there. He's on the pup. Let's see what happens when someone else hits him. Although Raekwon McMillan's back, which was a very positive sign as well. So, all right. So there you go. There's the table. It's been set this week. No pads, little shorts and shells action next Monday. And we'll be bringing you pods aplenty during this time. That's when they have the first contact practice. That would be 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. August 1st. August 1st is your first time to see the Patriots out there, as Andy said, doing lots of banging. So we got that to look forward to.
Watching the Patriots banging.
You kid, business is banging, baby. That's what I'm here for, and life is all about. And of course, you can tell your friends if they want the latest insight, analysis, and more. Follow at 6 Rings Pod. And of course, rate, review, subscribe. We're everywhere. Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Pods, WEEI.com, you name it. The 6 Rings Pod is available there. All right, Andy, in the final segment of today's podcast, the Camp Preview 2022 and more, I have 2 topics I would like to hit in our final segment. The first is camp related, and it harkens back to a piece I whipped up this week for WEEI.com. One of the 4 players remaining, one of the 4 veteran players remaining on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list, is third down back extraordinaire, 2-time Super Bowl champion, the living legend, James White, who Mike Reese recently described as at a charity event walking with an uncomfortable gait. So I think we now have to, and we've talked about him probably not being ready to play, and I know we've hinted at or like briefly discussed like how they might handle the situation, but the reality is they're going to have to either address the third down back soon and start working someone else in, period, or just blow by it and factor it out of the offense until he returns, or maybe it's not even that big a part of the offense after 20 some odd years of living and dying by how productive the third down back has been. The Marines and the Woodheads and the Falks and the Redmonds and James Whites. So tell me, my guy, from the people that I suggested in the piece, Pierre Strong, who Mike Reese said might get first looks, Ty Montgomery, Mondre, J.J. Taylor, or nobody, who do you think is most likely to get first looks or first crack at subbing in for or maybe even replacing the legend of Sweet Feet?
Well, they're not going to replace him because he's been the best that's done that job for 20 plus years. Ivan Fears, the longtime running backs coach, has talked about that. And it's a long list. It's an impressive list. I mean, Shane Green, Danny Woodhead, Kevin Falk, they've had guys that have come through that each one had their own strengths and really contributed in a positive way. I personally think it will be some combination of Ty Montgomery and Ramondre Stevenson. I am not as big a believer on the whole Pierre Strong thing. I'll believe that when I see it. I think it's a big jump for him coming out of a lower level of college.
Hell, you got pass protection. You said he has rough hands. Lance Zierlein on his NFL.com thing said profile said he doesn't have great hands, but his college coach got in touch with Mike Reese and was like, his hands are amazing. This guy's got magic hands.
Okay,
they're like hamburger helper hands.
Time out, real quick. I had to do player profiles of every draft pick the Patriots made over the last 20 years, and part of that, we always talk to their position coach. I can count
tires.
I can count on JPP's hand the number of times that a coach was negative about his player. They usually tell you, oh, this guy, he proved everybody wrong. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. Almost never you get a coach who tells you, was that inappropriate?
No, it was great. Normally you'd be like, oh, I can't believe you'd make that guy. You would stoop to that guy. The poor gentleman's only like, no, I'm all for that.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
So I could not possibly care less if his college coach says he's going to be great. It's like I've always said it. Don't ask a little leaguer's mother, like how he played. Nope. Don't care. Sorry, mom. I know you love him and he loves you and the whole thing. You're not going to give me an honest report because I've lived that world with my own wife talking about my own son. And I'm like, did you watch the same game I did? He made 6 errors. He couldn't hit. He struck out 4 times and you think he played well? Like, what the hell were you watching?
He's my firstborn, and I'll always love him maybe the most. But man, our kid sucks at this particular sport. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. And he didn't catch the most passes. Pierre Strong Jr., who has blazing speed, sub 4.40, 10 touchdowns of 50 yards or longer, which is just insane. But then again, he played at South Dakota State. There will be a role for him, we hope, eventually, if he can adapt to the speed and power of the pro game and the advanced schemes that are probably a hell of a lot more complicated than whatever they ran. Like, here, take it this way and go fast at South Dakota State. Typically, rookies don't play that much as running backs, especially when they're the pass-catching back. Vereen and James White didn't friggin' sniff the field their rookie seasons. They barely saw the field.
That tells you what they think the job is, how hard the job is. The Belichickian, put players in position to succeed, not fail. Don't set them up for failure. And with the pass protection and everything that goes into that job, I think there are a lot of gray area decisions or decisions that need to be made quickly. and very much have the importance of the play, ball security, but also the protection of your quarterback. So I would lean towards Ramondre Stevenson. Has been there, done that, made mistakes, right? Missed the pass protection last year, got blown up. Like, there's issues there. Learn from it. Year 2, you should be. And obviously, Ty Montgomery had a lot of experience in a variety of roles and systems over the years. I think those two guys get the first shot. And the reality is, you're not going to be as good. You're losing, I think, one of the best pure third down pass catching running backs in the National Football League over the last handful of years, 4, 5, 6 years. You're losing that if James White's not out there. So I think your expectations and what you see in that position have to be tempered a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones had an excellent rookie season without the best pass catching back, the best third down back, a clutch first down grabber like James White. He only had him for 2 games basically. And then it was Brandon Bolden at that point. So, I agree with you. I wish Pierre Strong. I wish we could say it's going to be him because of that ridiculous speed, but I don't think he's going to be able to adapt to the game, and it's going to be a whole lot for him to process in very little time. Plus, like Fauria said during the first segment, previewing camp, he's not going to have the practice, and all of a sudden, he's not going to have the contact. Then all of a sudden, like we saw with Ramondre last year in the opening game against Miami, Landon Roberts comes in and just blowed up his whole world. Ivan Fears pulls him out, doesn't even play for a while, and he matures and grows as we get into the halfway point of the season. And now the kid's a stud, and we're going to be looking to him for a whole lot this season. So a combination of Montgomery and Stevenson would make a lot of sense. I still don't think James White's coming back anytime soon. Like, if the guy can barely walk, or if he has a pronounced limp in late July, how the hell do you expect him to take contact come the middle of September through January, February, however long? So I agree with you, Andy. I think that's where it's at. And now for the second half of our potpourri or final segment here on the Six Rings podcast. Last night it was announced that, in my estimation, one of the more underrated, if you will, one of the more integral and clutch pieces of the second half of the Patriots' double dynastic run has called it a career. And I'm just going to run this because I know how much everyone loves it. In the litany of his highlights in a Patriots uniform, the 5 of the 13 years he played pro football. I mean, come on, this has to be everyone's favorite, right?
Years ago, we talked to Tom Moore, then at Indianapolis, the offensive coordinator. You got a busted play here,
and my machine screwed up because I was supposed to play the Edelman to Amendola touchdown, and the butt fumble ran instead. Nice job, technology. I thought we were friends. All right, that was going to be the Edelman to Amendola pass, the pass against the Ravens in 2015. Hopefully our producer edits that out. If he doesn't, you know what? That's fine. I'll take the L and do a lap later. And if coach tells me I owe him 5 gassers at the end of practice today, so be it. Danny Amendola retired from the NFL. 13 seasons, like I said, 5 with the Patriots. In those 5 seasons, 5 consecutive playoff appearances, 3 Super Bowl trips, 2 Super Bowls, more clutch receptions in big games, playoff Danny, Danny playoffs, or rather, whatever the playoff Dola, Danny playoffs, whatever they called him. I think Andy, one day, despite the friction between he and Belichick over the numerous pay cuts and the way they did business and the exhausting nature of playing for the Patriots, I think one day Danny Amendola should accept his red jacket, find his place in the hall at Patriot Place presented by Raytheon. He should be a Patriots Hall of Famer for that catch, for Super Bowl 49, where he was huge, for Super Bowl 51, the 4th and 3rd, the 2-point conversion, a touchdown there. And the AFC Championship game against Jacksonville. I mean, my God, Brady's got 1.5 hands, Dola with 2 touchdowns, and 3rd and 18, maybe the most underrated play of his career. Do you believe Danny Amendola will one day be a Patriot Hall of Famer, Andy Hart?
Probably, but it could be a long wait. This is a stacked franchise, quite frankly, where you have, the controversial types, the Parcells or whatever, the Vrabels, and then every year the list is just going to get longer and harder to crack into. You have Edelman and Gronkowski and McCourty.
Hankins is waiting.
Mankins. Like Devlin, and I say that in all seriousness. If anybody wants to bust my balls, I'll effing kill you, because he should go.
Wait, hold on. No, wait, you think James Devlin come on,
I
for
will
real?
come through this effing screen.
You
and
will
tear out
absolutely
your
do
larynx
nothing
and
of that. You are not going to assault me on a podcast.
James Devlin is the epitome of a Team Patriots Hall of Famer, franchise legend, all-decade fullback, a one-team kind of guy. Once he got into the NFL, he laid it all on the line, including his body, his neck, and his career for you. And I believe Bill Belichick is on record saying there are few more directly connected to winning than James Devlin. You just look at their success when he was on the team and when he wasn't. He made Sony Michel a star. He won you a Super Bowl. If you want to come at me, let's bring it.
I was going to say, are you going to come at me? Are you going to take me out like he did Jeremy Hill?
I will take you out like you wouldn't believe. I will end you.
Your fullback love is hilarious. No, I would put Dola in before. They both deserve it, yes. And I think Danny Amendola deserves it because, while he never topped 700 receiving yards, never had more than 85 catches in a season, and that was with the Rams. I know he was signed to be the Welker replacement. Turns out, Edelman becomes the Welker replacement. He has to find a niche role. Balls out in his first game, has 10 catches for 104 yards against Buffalo, but in playing so hard, slight frames, 5'11", 185, little dude tears the groin right off the bone, is never really the same player the rest of the 2013 season. But in 2014, slowly starts establishing himself as a complement to Edelman, finding his role in the offense. And it's almost like he realized, okay, they're going to either look for Gronk or Edelman, which is perfect because I'll find my spot soft in the zone against their third or their nickel cornerback, and great hands, phenomenal toe drag swag and body control. And like I said, the clutch performances just started piling up, and you don't win a lot of those games. You don't win a lot of these championships without the massive contributions, the epic highlights, and the just general handsome blue steel clutch Amendola brought for those 5 seasons.
Yeah, he's a really unique discussion because, as you said, he was a massive disappointment in the original role and the money he was signed. And remember Robert talking about, we wanted Welker back, but we had already reached, we found his replacement, paid him $30 million, which at the time was a lot of money. And he should have been Jonnu Smith in a way. But instead, he found a way to be a central figure, new role.
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to have that role, but this role is available. And became sort of the third wheel in that bromance between Brady and Edelman. He was sort of the wedged his way in there, and they were doing videos and hot tubs and cop things and all kinds of that weird.
The Brady's pygmies.
Yeah, and so he's a really interesting story. But for a crappy team, and I guess it would be weird because he kind of made his name as being a clutch playoff contributor. But there's a lot of teams where he's a slam dunk Patriots Hall of Famer or Jaguars Hall of Famer or whatever Hall of Famer. It's just a weird world where you have to beat out actual Hall of Famers, pro football Hall of Famers, to get in the team Hall of Fame. It's almost like they need a different wing for these kinds of guys that I would say are, even the Kevin Falks of the world, where you never said, wow, he caught 100 balls, but you're like, damn, he was a team Hall of Famer. James Devlin, I would put Danny Amendola very much in that mix. He just might have to wait a while. I'm also intrigued to see, I don't know if you saw the little mini controversy. Apparently, Schefter seemed to have run his tweet by Amendola's camp before he put it out, talking about how he was looking into TV. And he actually cut and pasted the text by the looks of it. Work ? And then the words underneath, and then he posted that as the actual tweet. Does this work ? And delete that. But I don't know what I think of him as a would-be broadcaster. His immediate next role. I'm not sure he'll be great at it.
Well, he's not afraid to be salty or not afraid to at least tell you how he feels, because whether it was the 2018 interview with Mike Reese where he said Belichick was the greatest coach to ever coach football, but then called him an asshole, or when Brady, I was going to say those are both perfectly honest assessments. I have no issue with them. I don't know why anyone in Pat's Nation would. Then a couple years later, when Brady leaves, and Amendola comes out and says it's all Brady. The Patriot way is not Bill Belichick or the championships or putting on that uniform or do your job. It was Tom Brady. So he sided with his guy. I get it. But as far as I think Dan Amendola might be pretty good at it. Obviously, looks good on TV. The man's a freaking professional model on top of everything else. Let's not get into his off-field accomplishments. Trading spots with him for a day.
Talk about a
as far
receiver. Hey,
hey, easy. Come on. Clean it up. Aisle 6 rings here. As far as the acrimony between he and Belichick, hopefully he puts it aside. He puts it aside. Doesn't worry about it. Belichick actually in the opening Zuma this morning spoke to Danny Amendola and his retirement and had nothing but good things to say about it. Let's have a listen to the coach.
Danny, he was a very good player for us. Had a lot of skill. Mostly played inside, but could play outside. Could return. Very smart, tough, dependable. Great hands, concentration. Just a good football player. Glad we had him here, and he certainly was a big contributor for us.
Nice to hear that coach was not saying like, yeah, he was pretty good. Well, helped us win a lot of big games, but said I was a dink and said I worked him too hard, and I took his money, so whatever. Have fun in retirement, jackass. Like, no, that was all love right there, and I appreciate it. That's about the best you're ever going to get on camera or verbally, not in written word from Bill Belichick. So I'm happy to hear it. I say Danny Amendola, Patriots Hall of Famer, deserves the red jacket and the special Thursday night or Sunday treatment sometime soon. Andy, as we wrap up, because we've gone plenty long at this moment in time, any final thoughts, any last words you want to offer before we actually get into camp and return in a couple of days with your first blog observations from Pat's Camp 2022?
I'm intrigued. I think this is a really interesting Patriots training camp and preseason. Not only are you a fan, you go down there and you're just happy there's Patriots on the field and footballs are in the air and it's that time of year again. But if you're more of the truly analytical, and I think a lot of the people that listen to our podcast on Six Rings, they go a little deeper. They're not just, they don't just show up on Sunday to watch a game. They care the other 6 days of the week. That's why they subscribe and listen to this podcast. If you're that type of fan, I think there's a lot going on. Almost every segment of practice, jobs for grabs. Like you can watch somebody block, catch, cover, tackle, and put that in the back of your mind for when roster cuts come or when September 11th comes. Who's on the active roster? Who's on the field? Who's being given a chance to shine? All of these things. You mentioned, for example, Raekwon McMillan. Other years, Raekwon McMillan, if he's behind Brewski and Vrabel and Mayo and all these guys, you're like, oh, great. He at least he can practice. That'll help the team get
right. He's Gary Guyton 2.0.
Right. Well, now I'm like, yeah, I think it's important that Raekwon McMillan's active. I think Raekwon McMillan might be your sleeper best linebacker on this team. So from top to bottom, other than maybe like Jake Julian, the backup punter, or a couple others, almost every guy on this roster, if you watch him in practice, it's relevant to the 2022 Patriots. And I think this could be a really interesting summer in Foxborough.
Could not agree with you more. It's weird to actually end on us agreeing on something, but long gone are the days of like, all right, here we go. It's championship prime season. I want to see everyone out there. Let's see Tom Brady. Haven't seen him since the Duck Boat Parade. And then I just, let me pump up my entitlement, remind everyone that I'm better than them because I root for the best team in the history of football and or professional American sports. This is, and get primed for the playoffs and a Super Bowl run. This is, holy shit. Wow. Everything's up for grabs. Like, what are the new Patriots going to really now finally look like? This Patriots 3.0 under Belichick is now about to fully take shape. You're going to see if some people are going to call Foxborough and Gillette Stadium and the New England Patriots home for the next 3, 5, 7 years. So your future as a Patriots fan truly begins now. And I honest to God can't wait. And I'll end on this little comment because we've had a number of great people watching on YouTube and Facebook as we recorded today. Cousin Chris, a regular on the old GFY Facebook, says, it's the run defense. If a team can run the ball effectively, our offense won't even see the field this year, Andy. So, see, people are concerned about the defense. One of many things.
There's plenty to be concerned about. Just remember, keep it simple, and Jell-O softens Jell-O.
And Eddie Monroe, last words. I love Devlin, but he's not a Patriots Hall of Famer. Thank you, Eddie.
Go after yourself, Eddie.
For my guy, Andy Jumbo Hart, you can follow him on the tweet machine. His observations from Gillette Stadium, where Patriots Camp 2022 is getting underway. He's at Jumbo Hart. I'm at Fitzy GFY. We are back Saturday with our Fitzy and Hart program, 1 to 4. We'll be back at the end of the week with another Six Rings pod. Tell your friends, rate, review, subscribe, and so much more. Camp is underway. Summer is still in progress, but football season is nigh. I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for sticking with us. We're going to have a ton of good stuff for you guys all season long. So here we go. Until then, good night. God bless. Good luck. Drink up. And as always, go Pats. Six Rings Pod out.
See ya.